Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Romero, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee. Mr. President, we are lacking a quorum.
How are we looking?
You have a quorum, sir.
We do?
Yeah.
Quorum is present. Will the members and our guests beyond the rail and gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this afternoon by our guest chaplain, Reverend Dr. Pamela Anderson, after which we will be led in prayer, led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Ashburn.
Thank you once again for having me back. I'm thrilled to be here. And if you remember, my name is Reverend Dr. Pamela Anderson, so thank you for voting for me. I understand that I haven't been voted off Dancing with the Stars yet, so keep up the good work. But one of the things that whenever we go to the grocery store, we know what's in season by what is being featured. And Ecclesiastes chapter 3 says, "There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven." Well, now is the time for your season. You are being featured. As you all know, your terms will not last forever, but you are here now, and now is your time. And now is your time to make great decisions for this great state of California. Would you please pray with me? Loving and eternal God, we pray for our California Senate. May they make decisions today that will strengthen the benefit of each Californian. May they deliberate today with enthusiasm and respect as they help to move California in its best direction. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator Cogdell.
Privileges of the floor. Senator Cogdell.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the honor this morning, or this afternoon rather, to introduce some young folks from the Fresno State University that are here with us today. They're all part of the Kenneth L. Maddie Institute and are serving in different offices throughout Central Valley. And I just wanted to introduce them. They're here today in the back of the chambers along with their project coordinator, let me get the name state, Jennifer Johnson. So please help me welcome them.
Thank you for the students that are here today. We welcome you and continued success in all your endeavors as well. Senator Correa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to speak on the conditions of the file. Please note for the official record that I submitted a letter of opposition to the welcoming today of the Judiciary Committee of the National Assembly of Vietnam to be recognized today on the Senate floor. Seeing that my opposition was not successful, I'd like to make some constructive recommendations to the Vietnamese Judiciary Committee while they're here today, and I will ask them to look at how we address the following issues here in the state of California. I'd like to ask them to look at how we address due process of an individual's right, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, and the general topics of human rights and religious freedom. I proudly represent Central Orange County and Little Saigon, home of the largest concentration of Vietnamese outside of the country of Vietnam. I've personally heard many accounts from my constituents of how many of them were held in re-education camps, some for more than 20 years. And many were not even active in the military service during the war, but rather were writers, poets, intellectuals, and religious leaders. Many may say that that was then and this is now, yet concerns regarding Vietnam's lack of freedoms are being raised today, this very day. In 2009, the United Nations Human Rights Council of Universal Review of Vietnam Rights Records stated that Vietnam had rejected key recommendations that included ending of torture and the right of individuals to promote human rights. And this year, the Heritage Foundation also noted that by their own economic measures, Vietnam's policies had resulted in tremendous loss of economic freedoms. Members, senators, let me conclude that in memory of the more than 58,000 Americans that died in the struggle for freedom in Vietnam, and the more than 1 million Vietnamese that also died in that struggle for freedom, I will not be taking part in these welcoming ceremonies today, and I will now leave the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other privileges of the floor? Okay, messages from the Assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Motions, resolutions, and notices. Senator Steinberg.
Thank you. If one item of business and one adjourn in the memory. I want to request unanimous consent to take up SR 41 without reference to file. This is merely a measure that changes the number of members on the Veterans Affairs Committee.
Without objection? Secretary, please read.
Okay.
Senate Resolution 41 by Senator Steinberg relative to the standing rules of the Senate for the 2009-10 regular session.
Thank you very much, members, Mr. President, members. This measure simply takes the Veterans Affairs Committee from 7 members to 5, and all worked out with the other side. I'd urge an aye vote on this procedural matter and will forbear from reading the entire resolution.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, we will adopt this by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Introductions and first reading of bills. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 96 by Senator Correa relative to California Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Okay, consideration of daily file. There are amendments at the desk. They will be deemed adopted. Second reading file. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1171, 1330, 1106, and Assembly Bill 1431.
We'll move to the consent calendar, item 47. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1096 by Senator Wiggins, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? Corbett? Correa? Cox? Aye. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Flores? Hancock? Harmon. I. Hollingsworth. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. Leno. I. Liu. Lowenthal. I. Maldonado. Negrete McLeod. Oropesa. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. Price. I. Romero. I. Runner. I. Smidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. Yee. Corbett, I. Negrete McLeod, I. Correa, I. Yee, I. Denham, I. Cogdill, I. Dutton, I.
Call the absentees.
Flores. Hancock. Liu. Maldonado. Pavley. Wiggins. Wyland. Mr. President, ayes 32, noes 0.
Ayes 32, noes 0. The motion is carried. The measure passes. Privileges of the floor. Senator Corbett.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to introduce a national delegation who is here to visit us this afternoon. Ready?
You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. We are flying the flag of Vietnam at our podium today in honor of a distinguished delegation from the Vietnamese National Assembly. This group is comprised of members and staff of the Judiciary Committee and is led by their chair, the Honorable Madame Tu Ba. They are accompanied by the Deputy Consul General of Vietnam in San Francisco, the Honorable Ms. Ha, and they are here under the auspices of USAID. This delegation is visiting with us today and is visiting the United States to study rule of law issues and discuss legal reform efforts underway in Vietnam. They are here at our capital today to encourage a closer legislative relationship between Vietnam and California and to further promote our economic ties, which already produce a robust bilateral trade account of more than $4 billion. I would ask you to join me today in extending a very warm welcome to our very special guests from Vietnam who are here to learn our way of civil law here in the state of California and to encourage them to continue dialogue with our country on these very important issues. So if you could just give them a very warm welcome.
A warm welcome to our visitors, and may you have a productive stay here in California.
And, Mr. President, I would also like to encourage the members to attend a reception being held in the delegation's honor in room 211 immediately after session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Chair, members, during our break, I'd like to recognize the boys from Westchester High School. They are the state champions in basketball. Now, Senator Oropesa and I split the community of Westchester, but I like to say it was my half that won the tournament. But yeah, this is actually, I think, the second time in the last 3 years that the young men from Westchester High School, known as the Comets, have won the state basketball tournament. And just like to wish them a congratulations, and we'll see them later.
Yes, we're happy to do that. It was both halves.
Who's next? Senator DeCheney.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, I just wanted to take a moment as we were doing adjourns in memory and such to ask everyone to keep their thoughts and prayers with those in our border region, particularly our neighbors in Baja California, in Mexicali, There were, at least so far that we're aware, there were 2 deaths in Mexicali yesterday from the earthquake. We were very fortunate we haven't seen much greater damage, although what we are hearing today, there are a lot of roads, there are issues with electric lines, power lines, gas lines, and telephone lines have been down. We are continuing to try to get updates on how we might cooperatively do cross-border emergency services. It reminds us that although this earthquake technically was in Mexico, it affected all of Southern California and reached as far as Phoenix and Las Vegas. Many of us felt it certainly in San Diego. Imperial County did suffer some damages, and many of the state and local government offices are closed there today as everybody evaluates the damage. I just want everybody to keep the many families. There are many families in Mexicali who are without homes today, but hopefully it will continue to be the positive thing that it's been so far, and we haven't seen the kind of damage that was in Chile or in Haiti. Hospitals have held up, and folks are being relocated, but we will try to keep everybody apprised. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Keogh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to adjourn in memory of 2 distinguished San Diegans, if I might. First, Craig Knoll, the founding director of the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, passed away on Saturday. He was 94 years old. This is on behalf of Senator Duchesne and myself. He was at the Old Globe for 7 decades, over 70 years. He made it one of the finest regional theaters in the country. They've won 9 Tony Awards on Broadway of plays that have come from the Old Globe in San Diego. They've received nearly 60 nominations, and they won the Regional Theater Tony Award in 1984. He will be missed. He was a driving force in the arts in San Diego, and of course, the guiding spirit of the Old Globe. And second, Betty Newton died recently in San Diego. If you're a gardener in Southern California, you know Betty Newton. She wrote a regular column for decades in the local paper. Gardening in Southern California and Gardening Beautifully in Southern California are 2 of her books. She will be missed. She was an adult educator, a lifelong gardener who had to grow into a profession. Both of them contributed a great deal to San Diego.
Thank you. We will bring the names to the front. We will make sure they are recognized in the record. Senator Romero.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I'd like to ask the Senate to adjourn in the memory of a great educator, Jaime Escalante, who we lost just a few days ago. As you know, Jaime Escalante was a well-loved, a well-respected math teacher, an educator who taught at Garfield High School in East LA, which I represent in the California State Senate. Mr. Escalante was born in Bolivia, actually immigrated to this country. He was the child of teachers. And when he came to this country, he found that he had to upgrade his own skills. He had to teach himself English. He had to earn another college degree before he was able to finally step onto a high school campus and start teaching. He started teaching in East LA at Garfield High School in 1974. And I will tell you, members, that when he first went to Garfield, he was so disheartened by the quality of instruction, by the preparation, by the readiness of students to be able to take on basic math and more advanced concerns like algebra and calculus, that he even thought about just packing up his bags and returning home. But he knew that he had to stand and deliver for students in East LA, and he did. You probably have seen the movie or heard of it, Stand and Deliver. This was largely because he challenged the notion that even though students may be from poverty backgrounds, even they may be of ethnic minority status, that there might be low expectations of students. And he challenged these when his students passed AP calculus tests with some of the highest scores. They were questioned as to whether or not these young Mexican-American students, these scores could really be theirs. 12 of the 14 students went back, took the test again, excelled again. But I think more than anything, what Jaime Escalante taught us was more than math. He taught us about ganas. He taught us about believing in ourselves, of having the desire to believe in yourself and to give back to your community. So I ask you members to adjourn in his memory today, not just a math teacher, but somebody who really taught life lessons for all of us. Garfield High School in East LA, the new auditorium will be renamed in his honor. His services will be in East Los Angeles on April 17th. If you're interested in attending or participating, please let me know. So I ask today, members, that we adjourn in the memory of Jaime Escalante, somebody who stood and delivered for students in California.
Thank you, Senator Romero. I'm sorry. Cedillo. Senator
I just want to
Cedillo.
echo the comments of my colleague. Jaime Escalante was on this floor a few years ago. We gave him the Spirit Award, and I'm very happy that we were able to do that. He taught at the rival high school to the school that I went to, but nonetheless, he was extraordinary in what today we talk about in terms of policy, an achievement gap, and he was one of the first persons who said we need to transcend that achievement gap that people from low-income communities can achieve. We need to raise our expectations and raise our commitment, and if we can do that, then they can be successful. And I, again, stand in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you for both of those memories. Certainly was a fine Californian and great contribution to our society. Senator Alquist.
Thank you. I would like to build on the comments of my colleagues. As a former algebra and trigonometry teacher, I have great respect for Jaime Escalante. And what he really taught his students, first of all, we must say that he really inspired them. Mathematics is the kind of material that it's rigorous, it's a discipline, it's an area where every single day you have to do the homework, you have to do the studying. You have to believe in yourself, and when you have questions, you've got to be able to ask them. All of his students, and he had many, developed the life skills for approaching life, for dealing with whatever they will deal with in their lives. And for that, we must all thank math teacher Jaime Escalante. And along with my colleagues, I'd like to adjourn in his memory, and may his memory be eternal.
Thank you. Senator Yee has requested permission for a photographer to be on the floor with no objections. Senator Yee at Senator Steinberg's desk.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Throughout the times, the sport of boxing has seen many historical events, as well as many men who were talented enough to pull them off. You had Rocky Marciano, Iron Mike Tyson, Shane Mosley, Muhammad Ali. While each of these stories hold a special place in history, a new page has been added when a Filipina-American phenomenon, Ana Hurricane Jolanto, became the quickest boxer ever to win a championship title in the sport, accomplishing a feat only in her 7th professional bout. She's a San Francisco-born, has been training for this sport for many years. Ana is fighting not only to become the world's undisputed champion, but also for women's boxing to change people's mind that boxing is not only a man's sport. In 2009, Ana shocked the world by being the first U.S.-born Filipina-American to ever win the world championship. In 1 year, she won 2 titles, and I think she's got belts to prove them. She won 2 title belts as 2009 WBO Super Bantamweight World Champion and 2009 IBA Super Bantamweight World Champion. In last year, in 2009, she was named as one of the most influential women here in the United States, and as well received a proclamation from the Philippine President, President Arroyo. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, let me introduce one of my constituents, Ana Jolanto, a world championship. Thank you very, very much. This lady is going to be seating our Chief Sergeant Tony Beer in a little while.
All right. Just don't come out swinging. Well, thank you. Thank you for your achievements and for being such a positive role model. Seeing no further business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Hold on.
Mr. President, if I can note that there's a reception 30 minutes after the end of session in my office. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you. Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate Environmental Quality Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in room 112. Once again, that's Senate Environmental Quality immediately upon adjournment in room 112.
Thank you. Senator Steinberg, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. While we celebrate our world champion here, I'd like to adjourn in the memory of somebody else who could throw a pretty good punch in his day. The late Senator Al Rada. Al Rada, one of the great Sacramentans, passed away over the weekend at age 97. 97 years old. What a good, long life. Senator Rada had a distinguished career, including 23 years as a state senator representing the greater Sacramento area. He was intimately involved in guiding the state through the Proposition 13 period of time, the historic Supreme Court ruling Serrano v. Priest, and many other endeavors. He had a full life. I know for myself, when I was beginning young elected official, I used to run into Senator Rada downtown all the time by himself, walking, talking, and he was always willing to engage in conversation about what it was like, and always willing to dispense advice to a young up-and-comer, and I'll always remember that. Senator Otto asked the Senate to adjourn in the memory of one of our colleagues, Senator Al Rada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further business, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30. Would you care to add something to that? Okay. At which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene on Thursday at 9 a.m. Senate stands in recess.